Today's topic is crystals. While some of us may enjoy a closer, more intimate relationship with them, crystals indeed impact all of us to various degrees, and in many cases, ways we ourselves may not even be aware of. We see crystals every day in the form of salt, sugar, gemstones, and snowflakes. Crystals are prized for their beauty and valued for their utility in many electronic products. Some people believe crystals have spiritual and healing qualities as well. Their orderly, repeating patterns are a marvel of nature and chemistry. Crystals can form in many shapes, from simplistic cubic structures to hexagonal to double pyramids to tall spirals with up to 10 sides or more. Some are not symmetrical from one side to the other. The shape and the structure is determined by its chemical components and its chemical bonds. Quartz is a crystal that many people know. It grows in 6-sided columns and can come in a range of colors depending on the chemical impurities in it. The amethyst gemstone is a type of quartz crystal with chemicals in it that give it a rich purple color.
So an amethyst, it's a very popular crystal for some reason. Well, it is a very nice crystal. I've actually got quite a few amethysts. Here are my lovely amethysts. So amethysts are very popular. They are used for soothing and they just calm you down. The colour purple is a very soothing colour. So lavender, that's why if you go into retirement homes you see a lot of lavender and the colour purple, because purple is very calming and very soothing.
Look how beautiful purple that is. It's so vibrant, it's incredible.
Amethyst comes in this really cool, it can either come as a cluster like this, or it can come as a rough point. Basically the rough points are just if this was bigger and then one of these little pieces broke off, and that's when you get one of those rough points. It's just so rich with like good energy. It's good for headaches, and it's very calming, and I want to say grounding. Like it just really balances out all the energies. Amethyst is amazing.
Quartz crystals have a natural property, an ability to generate an electrical field, which makes them very useful in radio and video equipment. Where this becomes even more interesting, especially for my subscribers, some of whom are very talented holistic practitioners, is that crystals are also often used as focal points for their personal meditations and for healing in their practices.
Crystals have long been used in energy healing and just for decoration, and people are very drawn to them, and each of them has its own frequency, its own healing frequency, its own energy, and its own beauty.
Yes, exactly.
And you will see in stores that sell pendulums that it's very common to see pendulums made out of crystals. Normally they'll look kind of like this, they'll have a pointy end. This particular pendulum is made out of a quartz crystal with a point on the end. Having a pointed end does make it easier if you're going to use it for dowsing charts.
And then of course I have my pendulum. Like my pendulum I cannot like live without. Like when you go to buy a crystal, you don't pick the crystal picks you. So that's why I don't recommend you buying crystals over the internet, because you have to get a feel of them. You will also feel when your crystal needs energizing, and you will feel that, oh, it's time for me to energize them. So, and also when someone touches them. It does take 24 hours to energize a crystal. It's a bit annoying, but you know, it's very important to do it. So how to energize a crystal is you're going to get your crystal and you're going to submerge it in a bowl of water and sprinkle sea salt over it. Now tell people in your household to please not touch the bowl, because you're going to need to leave it somewhere untouched for 12 hours. And the amount of sea salt is up to you. You will feel how much you need to put on it. After that, you're going to leave it there for 12 hours. Once it has been there for 12 hours, you're going to take it out of the bowl and just run it under some water to get rid of a bit of the salt. Just literally just run it under some water.
What you need to do is make sure that you're actually holding it quite close. I mean, I've seen people start dowsing with hanging over the finger,
which is not good.
And like there, and then waiting for things to happen. Well, it's like so slow. So you actually start here, and you start from a move. Excuse me. You start from a moving pendulum, because a moving pendulum will then show yes and no much more quickly than a stationary pendulum.
Yeah, starting from a dead stand is not easy. We call this a neutral swing because it is neither yes nor no.
Exactly. That's what you're starting from, and then you ask a question.
So if you want to see what your yes and no is, you can ask a question you already know the answer to, and we found that the birthplace is a good question. So, for example, I might ask, was I born in Washington, D.C. in this lifetime? Because I was. And then be patient and see how the change in motion takes place, and pretty soon it settles into a yes. Now, yes for us is like a nodding of the head back and forth. Okay. Then you can ask a question that's really wrong. So I might say, was I born in Paris, France in this lifetime? Oh, I wish. But then I would patiently wait. And remember, you need to be in a dowsing state when you're asking questions. One of the real problems with people who haven't been trained is they think if they can get a yes and a no, they're dowsing.
Yeah. So,
nothing could be further from the truth.
So
you need to be in a dowsing state, and you're waiting for the no because you know you weren't born in Paris, France. And for me and Nigel, that's back and forth like shaking the head no. And that's what it would look like.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things to being able to dowse with a crystal pendulum beyond getting your yes and no, and we just want to make that very clear.
Yes.
You need to be in a dowsing state. You need to ask a very clear and good dowsing question, and then you need to know what your yes and no is.
Yeah.
So those are just a few of the key things. There's really a lot to being a good dowser.
Yeah, it would be wise for you to find out what crystal it is, Google it, see how you need to clean it or anything like that. Or some will need cleaning more than others, some won't need much cleaning at all. But if you like it, look after it, okay?
Yeah, and it's the same you would do with any crystal, whether you're using crystals for healing or decoration or space clearing or anything. You would have to cleanse them regularly, or they don't work as well.
Yeah.
So what I do is, after I have washed my crystal just under some water, I will put it on top of earth, so in a pot plant or outside in the garden, literally in some dirt, in earth. After that, you're done. Your crystal is energized, and you will feel like it's a lot lighter. You will feel connected to it. It's like it's a different connection that you will have with it, because it's clean. It's absolutely clean, and it's your energy that's put in there. Whilst you're doing all of this, like, literally do all the best you can to put all of your energy in the crystal. Like, it's not something I can really explain to you how to do. It's just something that's in you.
Cleanse your crystals by allowing them to bathe in salt water for a while. If possible, use sea salt or pink Himalayan salt. If you live near the ocean, you can also let them bathe in the ocean itself. You can also sage your crystals, which is very beneficial for cleansing them and keeping them happy. Letting them sit in brown rice for 24 hours centers and grounds the crystals and balances their male and female energies. However, there is a much easier way. Sunlight. Just as we receive energy from the sun, crystals also receive and recharge under the intensified life force rays of the sun. By letting your crystals spend an afternoon in the sun, they will be bursting with juicy energy for quite a while. Think of crystals like a rechargeable battery, and by leaving it in the sun, it recharges and stores energy to give to you. If it's running on low, the frequencies that it emits will not be as strong as if it would be at a full charge. Spirit water. It's really very simple. All you have to do is place a crystal into a glass or bottle of water for an extended amount of time before consuming. Usually it's recommended that you wait 24 hours before drinking the water, but even several hours will yield slight changes in the water, especially if you meditate with the water. You can also leave the water out in the moonlight or sunlight for a day before consuming while the crystals are in the water. If you really want to get creative, try mixing and matching crystals in the water. For one day you could put in an amethyst, and the next you could put in citrine. This actually goes to the phenomenon of water that researcher Masaru Emoto had been studying and researching for a very long time. The phenomenon in which water that had been blessed froze into beautiful crystals, and the water that was projected negatively onto froze into gross or ugly crystals. In my experiences, this rejuvenated water is smoother and cleaner than it is when you first pour it.
How to infuse water with crystals? It can work faster than just holding a crystal. You can actually ingest the properties of a crystal and have the water infused with those properties and have it shine out from you, and you can become a crystal person. The first and most obvious way to make a crystal gem elixir is to drop the rock into the water. Now, why is this a bad idea? Well, I didn't wash that rock, and I also don't know if it's been sprayed or coated or touched by anyone else. You want to make sure that they are gonna be safe to drink. This is on you, okay? I don't recommend doing this just because you might ingest some things that you didn't mean to ingest. But that is one of the coolest ways to put crystal energy into water. Water is amazing. It totally changes based on your intention and based on your energy and based on what you're doing with it. Water reacts to us, it reacts to energy. Water is a totally hyperdimensional thing, and it turns into crystals when it gets cold, like snowflakes. Snowflakes are crystalline structures. So another thing you want to know is that you want to put your intention into the stone so that the stone can then put the energy into the water. If you don't put any intention into the stone, that's fine, but it's going to just be like pure amethyst energy, which is cool. Unless you've been using this amethyst for a while and it's bogged down with all your BS stuff you've been pouring into your amethyst, your poor amethyst. So how do you clean a crystal? You can bury it, you can put it in salt water. Another way to do crystal healing, which I'm really excited to do, I want to build this whole thing to do this, but if you hold a crystal in the sun and you let the sun shine through into the water and you do that for 5 to 10 minutes, you're going to have an amazingly charged up glass of water, and you won't have to worry about the coating on the crystal or if it's clean or dirty. You will just get from the sun all of the sun's energy through the crystal into the water. That is an amazing way to do this.
The day that you charge your crystals in the sunlight, take 7 crystals, 1 for each chakra, and place them either under your bed or in between your mattress and box spring in the order of the chakras, lined up with where your body is while you sleep. Then, go to bed. Your chakra system picks up frequencies throughout your whole body, through high frequencies and low frequencies. Most crystals will give off an energy which will resonate to at least 1 chakra, if not more, which makes them excellent tools for aligning your energy body. Don't feel that you need to place the crystals under your bed. If it's not possible, you could put them in your pillowcase or on your night shelf or something like that. Whether you're skeptical of crystals or not, you gotta admit there's something absolutely magical about them. And hey, why not just pick up a few just to find out? You won't know until you experience it.
Natural crystals are dug from the ground where the Earth's temperature and pressure cause them to form, and some spectacular examples can be found underground in Mexico. I cover this in some of my other videos, you can check them out if you haven't already. But many crystals are also created in laboratories, under controlled conditions for various purposes.
Deep beneath the earth in Chihuahua, Mexico, grows a real-world fortress of solitude. 1910, in the Nica mine in Mexico, the Penoles Mining Company discovered what came to be known as the Cave of Swords. It was an 80-meter-long hallway with beautiful gypsum crystals growing up to 2 meters in length. Unfortunately, the cave was opened up for exploration and later tourism, which destroyed many of the crystals. 90 years later, 2 miners working for the same company stumbled on another cave, except this one was much bigger. Nica sits on an ancient fault line above a magma chamber. This heated the groundwater and filled it with sulfide ions. So when this hot sulfide brew met with the cool oxygenated water in the cave, they didn't mix exactly, they kind of sat on top of each other, but the oxygen began to diffuse into this rich sulfide soup, and slowly, at an infinitesimal pace, these crystals began to form. They have been growing for 500,000 years. Today, the largest crystal in the cave is 12 meters in length, 4 meters in diameter, and 55 tons. It is 20 times bigger than any previously known crystal. Amazingly, there's no limit to how big these crystals can get. Given enough time, they will grow ever larger. These are Fortress of Solitude crystals. They are Superman crystals. One big difference between the Fortress of Solitude and the Cave of Crystals is the temperature. The Cave of Crystals is blisteringly hot. These crystals grew underwater. It's only in the last 20 years this mining company has pumped out all of the groundwater so they can extract various precious ores from the area. But as soon as it doesn't make economic sense for this mining company, the crystals will be resubmerged, returned to their underwater existence. And this is probably for the best, because while it's incredible we get the chance to study them now, that's their natural environment. It's where they grew. It's where they can keep growing. And I think considering how beautiful but also how fragile these are, just knowing that they're under your feet growing ever larger is more than enough.
Now I want to show you a piece of quartz crystal in its natural form. Now if we were to examine this carefully, we can see that the quartz crystal has a hexagonal cross section. That is to say, it has 6 sides. Now also, quartz crystal in its natural form has pointed ends. This one doesn't because a primary cut has already been made on this crystal. The quartz crystal has a hexagon shape, 6 sides. While the lower view points out that indeed the quartz crystal in its natural form does have pointed ends. Not all crystals naturally will have the same resonant frequency. Its frequency will be dependent upon its thickness. Let's take a look at 2 pieces of crystal cuts and compare this difference in thicknesses. As you can see, the thinner cut here, the thicker cut here. We're indicating here that the vibration of this thinner cut, or the frequency, is greater than this cut. Now this will always hold true. The thinner the crystal cut, the higher the frequency of oscillation.
We have managed to fabricate very teeny tiny structures. The dimension of those structures is 500 less than the thickness of the human hair. Those magic structures are capable to change the intensity of the light, change the shape of the light, and at the same time change the color of the light. Our eyes are capable to see objects only in the visible spectrum. If we can fabricate an array of our nanostructures on flat surfaces like glass, at the end of the day we will be able to convert the invisible light in the nighttime or in dark areas to the visible light, which finally help us to see the objects in very dark environments.
These new nanocrystals can be used for various applications, like for example converting light for night vision, also creating security holograms like in our banknotes, as well as imaging application and visible display.
As nanocrystals make things like seeing in the dark possible, liquid crystals are also creating a lot of buzz. A liquid crystal may flow like a liquid, but its molecules may be oriented in a crystal-like way. Examples of liquid crystals can be found on most contemporary electronic displays, which all use liquid crystals. Crystals are also being used in more efficient and innovative ways in the solar panel field, as well as with smartphones, the glass of which will remain opaque when it's closed, but once started, the gadget becomes almost transparent. The only thing that will remain visible are the battery, SIM card, and on and off button. So according to the company website developing these new smartphones, and I quote, "The liquid crystal molecules are aligned so that light passes through them," end quote. So that's very interesting. My only problem is I always lose my phone already as it is without being transparent. Many of my subscribers are very much for free energy and suspect that our government may be holding back on this technology. And while this may be the case, there's already an active push for a full disclosure. The final goal including a release of this withheld energy and a new grid infrastructure based on a clean, non-polluting, free energy, which I myself support, but believe a gradient towards this end may be more likely of a scenario than a sudden overnight change. So in any case, I do feel very optimistic, and practical use of crystal technology seems to be very promising at this point.
92% of all of the solar cells that are being manufactured now are made of crystalline silicon. Perovskites are exciting compared to conventional semiconductors used in solar cells. Perovskite refers to a certain crystal structure.
Some of the great advantages of perovskites are that they are a thin film technology and can be easily printed on plastic substrates, very flexible, lightweight substrates.
We report the discovery of a new perovskite semiconductor with a small band gap. We were able to use it along with another perovskite that has a high band gap to make a tandem solar cell.
One of these solar cells absorbs high energy photons, so that's blue and green light. It uses this to generate a high voltage. And then the second solar cell, which has a much smaller band gap, absorbs lower energy light, such as the red and the infrared. When you stack these together, you sum up their voltages and you can reach a higher performance than you ever can for a single solar cell. So we can have that combination of low cost and highest possible performance.
I'm very optimistic that we will have panels with efficiencies above 25%. We already have 20% when these materials are optimized. We're going to be able to get a world record efficiency of 30% in 3 to 5 years.
We're just scratching the surface of this topic, but having already exceeded my time, I'll go ahead and wrap this one up, and thank you for listening and giving some consideration to a topic which, at least as far as healing goes, does not get any serious mainstream consideration. So while some might not subscribe to the reported health benefits of drinking crystal, sun-charged water to anything more than a placebo effect, or the dowsing to be simply an expression of the subconscious mind, that would work the same using something other than a crystal tied to a string. The point is that it's important to allow and to have tolerance for the exploration and free discussion of alternatives for healing and energy, since there's a void in the media and academia of any free thought or discussion, let alone free energy. Thank you as always for listening, especially when I go over my time, my apologies, but I wanted to include some different viewpoints. I thank those who have made their contributions available under Creative Commons. Please visit and support them. Please support Atlantean Gardens, the nonprofit that supports me, by giving a donation if you're in a position to do so. We appreciate it. It's tax deductible, and I'm very grateful and thankful and humbled by all the support so far. By the way, the singing bird's name is Peaches. My name is Robert Sepehr, and I will see you next time.